Okay. Good afternoon. They say that the eye is the window to the soul, but the ear is the avenue to the heart. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we will be talking about the ears. What are the ears for? They are the organ of hearing and balance. Okay? What are the functions of the ear? Hearing, but not just hearing, balance. Okay? When talking about the ear, we have to talk about three parts. You have the outer ear, or the external ear. You have the middle ear, and the inner ear, or the internal ear. So this is a simple illustration of the outer ear. As you can see, the external ear is from the pinna, or the auricle. It's pinna, it's Latin for wing. It involves the external acoustic meatus, the external acoustic canal, and the tympanic membrane, or the eardrum. And then you have the middle ear, which is the transformer mechanism of the ear. And then finally, you have the internal ear, or the engine of hearing and balance. So, the function of the external ear is it collects sound waves, it transfers it to the middle ear. The middle ear amplifies the sound waves and makes sure that the transition from air medium to fluid medium is smooth, and the internal ear transforms this mechanical energy into electrical input passing via the acoustic nerve to the brain. So first, let's talk about the external ear. This will be quick. Just remember that the external ear is divided into three parts. Of course, aside from the auricle, which is an irregularly shaped funnel composed of elastic cartilage, the external ear is mostly lined by skin or stratified squamous epithelium. And remember that the inner 2/3 of the external auditory canal is made up of bone, and the outer 1/3 is made up of cartilage. What type of cartilage? Elastic cartilage. Okay, elastic cartilage. It has hair follicles, sebaceous glands, and modified apocrine glands called ceruminous glands. And together, these form cerumen, or tutuli. It is a waxy material. It is composed of the secretions of sebaceous and ceruminous glands. It has proteins, saturated fatty acids, slough keratinocytes, and it has antimicrobial and protective properties. Okay? That's why when you see patients in the clinic and they ask you, Doc, how many times a day should I clean my ears? Should I clean it every day? No, we don't actually advise that because cerumen has antimicrobial and protective properties. Okay, and the inner 2/3 is enclosed by temporal bone. It has no sebaceous glands, no ceruminous glands. It does not produce cerumen. It has no hair. Okay, so when you look through an external auditory canal by doing otoscopy, you will see that the inner 2/3 does not have hair. Usually, it has no fatty pads. Okay, and lastly, you have the tympanic membrane, which is the eardrum. It is a fibroelastic tissue covered externally by epidermis and internally by a simple cuboidal epithelium, which is akin to the mucosal of the middle ear. So sound vibrates the tympanic membrane, and it transmits energy to the middle ear. So the tympanic membrane is the eardrum. If you do otoscopy on a patient, this is what you will see. This is the tympanic membrane. Can anyone guess what side of the tympanic membrane this is? Is it the right ear or the left ear? Okay, this is the right ear. How do I know? Because of the cone of light. You see that? The cone of light is always anterior-inferior in a normal ear. So, anterior-inferior. If this is anterior and this is posterior, you expect the nose to be there and the occiput to be here. So this is a right side eardrum. Okay? You have the handle of the malleus. And what's particular about the eardrum when you examine it is the pars flaccida. The pars flaccida. This part right here. Okay? This is the pars tensa, meaning it's tense. It has abundant fibroelastic tissue and it does not get sucked in easily. In cases of eustachian tube problems or auditory tube problems, wherein the middle ear cannot equalize with the atmosphere. So the pars flaccida, the middle layer, the middle fibrous layer is absent in this part, and this is usually the part that is affected by middle ear disease. So when you have patients who are kids and they have colds. Sometimes they say that their ear hurts. Usually this is the part that gets affected first. This gets sucked inwards. And this is where usually this is the part where cholesteatomas start. Okay? So that's what's particular about tympanic membrane. Now we go to the middle ear. The middle ear is an air-filled cavity within the temporal bone. It is lined by a simple cuboidal epithelium resting on a thin lamina propria. On entering the auditory tube, or the eustachian tube, okay, it is gradually replaced by respiratory epithelium. Does anyone know what respiratory epithelium is? You. It is a pseudostratified ciliated epithelium, columnar epithelium, okay? So, going back, it's air-filled, okay? So normally, air is what's inside the middle ear, okay? Not water, not fluid. So as you can see, usually when we describe the middle ear, we talk about it as a box. It has 6 sides, okay? So if you can see this diagram, this one is anterior, this one is posterior, of course that's the roof, this is the floor, lateral here, medial over there. Okay, so anteriorly the boundary is the eustachian tube or the auditory tube. Posteriorly, you have the adductus ad antrum and mastoid ear cells. Laterally, the tympanic membrane, of course. Medially, the cochlea. The roof is the tegmen tympani or the thin plate of bone. And on the floor is the jugular bulb. Okay, so remember earlier we talked about the external auditory canal. The inner 2/3 is bony and the outer 1/3 is cartilaginous. For the auditory tube, it is the opposite of that. So laterally it is 1/3 bony and medially it is 2/3 cartilaginous. Why is this so? Because usually the auditory tube is a collapsed tube. Okay, it is collapsed. It is not normally open, but swallowing opens it briefly to allow equalization of the tympanic cavity with the atmosphere. Okay, the tympanic cavity or the middle ear is only allowed equalization with atmospheric pressure via the auditory tube or the eustachian tube. Okay, so what allows atmospheric pressure to equalize with the tympanic cavity is the auditory tube. And then you have the auditory ossicles or the vesicular chain. This is connected with the tympanic membrane laterally, and you have 3. You have the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. They are Latin words for the hammer, anvil, and the stirrup. Okay, the malleus is attached to the eardrum laterally, medially. It's attached to the incus and the stapes is attached to the oval window. And this couples the outside of the ear, the inside of the ear. Okay? So that's why the middle ear is a transformer mechanism. So here's an illustration of the 3 ossicles. We have the malleus here, the incus, and the stapes. They articulate via synovial joints, and along with periosteum, they are only covered by a simple squamous epithelium. And of course, you have to remember that the ossicles, there are 2 muscles related to the ossicles. You have the tensor tympani and the stapedius muscle. Okay? Tensor tympani and stapedius muscle. Tensor tympani, remember, innervated by the 5th cranial nerve or the trigeminal nerve. And the stapedius is innervated by the 7th cranial nerve. What are they for? They prevent extremely loud sounds to damage your inner ear. So, when there is an extremely loud sound like a blast or an explosion, these 2 muscles contract. They prevent excessive motion of the ossicles to prevent damage to the inner ear. Okay, so lastly, we will talk about the inner ear. The inner ear is completely within the temporal bone. It has 2 parts. So you have a bony labyrinth and a membranous labyrinth. Okay? Bony labyrinth and membranous labyrinth. So you have to remember that the membranous labyrinth is completely within the bony labyrinth. They are shaped together, they are shaped alike. And you have to remember that the membranous labyrinth is fluid filled and it has fenestrations all around it. So here are the major divisions of the membranous labyrinth. You have the utricle and saccule, you have the semicircular ducts, and the cochlear duct. So basically three: utricle and saccule, semicircular ducts, cochlear duct. The first three, the utricle, saccule, and semicircular ducts, are responsible for balance, whereas the cochlear duct is responsible for hearing. Okay, so mediating the functions of these inner ear structures are hair cells. All of them have hair cells. Each structure has a different type of hair cell, but basically what mediates their actions, what their receptors are hair cells. So here's a diagram. So as you can see, this is the bony labyrinth, and inside it is the membranous labyrinth. Okay, this is how it looks like on cross-section. This is a cross-section of the semicircular canal. Bony labyrinth around, membranous labyrinth inside. Okay, and this is a cross-section of the cochlea. And you have the membranous labyrinth inside and the bony labyrinth covering the membranous labyrinth. So the entire membranous labyrinth is within the bony labyrinth, and it contains the following regions. So you have the vestibule, the semicircular canals, and the cochlea. So did you see this drawing? So this is the vestibule. Okay, you have the semicircular canals here. Look, they are partly circular, and you have the cochlea here. Okay.